Hello, good evening, and welcome to the news on NTA International. I'm Chimobi Walter Naji. Let's go with the headlines. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo raises concern over maltreatment of young Nigerians by men of Nigeria Police Force. In swift reaction, IGP bans federal SARS from routine patrols. Still in the euphoria of Nigeria's Diamond Jubilee, correspondents examine growth in some key sectors of the economy. Plus, pilgrimage commences in Mecca as Saudi Arabia eases COVID-19 restrictions. Glad to have you with us, and the news now goes as Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has expressed concern over young Nigerians being indiscriminately brutalized by men of the Nigeria Police Force, especially the Special Anti-Robbery Squad and those in other tactical units. Speaking to newsmen Sunday at the Presidential Villa in Abuja, the Vice President described these actions as totally objectionable and unacceptable, assuring Nigerians that a reform in the police force to curb these excesses is in the offing.
These are individuals who are meant to protect Nigerians. You know, they arrest and they arrest maiming, killing of young people, of anyone at all, you know, by these same individuals is completely wrong. It is unlawful, it is illegal, and anybody, all of those who are involved in this ought to be investigated and prosecuted. Now, I'm sure that today, this afternoon, I had a meeting with the IG of police. We reviewed several of these issues. The President and I have had discussions on this. He's very, very concerned about it. He wants to see himself, wants to see a reform of this process. And I'm sure that you are probably aware that the police have issued a statement, the IG has issued a statement looking at all these various issues. In particular, you know, warning against the use of these tactical forces, such as SARS, for purposes of doing anything other than anti-robbery as it's supposed to be. I mean, for example, and I think in the statement it specifically said that you cannot have a situation where SARS say they're investigating cybercrime and arresting people, young men and women who are carrying laptops and carrying on their phones. You know, cybercrime is an electronic crime. There's no way that you can investigate that by seizing people's phones in a taxi or in their cars. So I think it's very obvious that this is a major concern. A few bad eggs within the police force are causing a lot of this, and because it's all over the place in different states, there's a need, of course, to take serious action. I think that the IG statement today is a good first step.
State House correspondent Jide Onifade reports that Vice President Osinbajo commends the civil society organizations for bringing these attacks on Nigerians to the attention of the federal government and urges them to continue working with government in order to make the nation a better place. And consequently, the Inspector General of Police, Muhammad Adamu, has banned the personnel of the Federal Special Anti-Robbery Squad and other tactical squads of the force, including the Special Tactical Squad Intelligence Response Team, Anti-Cultism Squad, and other tactical squads operating at the federal, zonal, and command levels from carrying out routine patrols and other conventional low-risk stop-and-search duties, checkpoints, mounting of roadblocks, and traffic checks with immediate effect. A statement by the force indicates that no personnel of the force is authorized to embark on patrols or tactical assignments in Mufti. The IGP's directive come against the backdrop of findings by the leadership of the force that a few personnel of the tactical squads hide under the guise to perpetrate all forms of illegality, contrary to the standard operating procedure, code of conduct and rules of engagement established in the squad. IGP has warned the tactical squads against the invasion of the privacy of citizenry, particularly through indiscriminate and unauthorized search of mobile phones, laptops and other smart devices. Since organized labor reasoned with the imperatives of fuel price adjustment last week and toed the path of sense in opening further window of dialogue on the service-based electricity tariff, some groups of Nigerians have been disgruntled. A statement by the special advisor to the president on media and publicity, Garba Shehu, says those interest groups had apparently perfected plans to use the strike by the labor unions as smokescreen to unleash anarchy on the land, fomenting mayhem and civil disobedience. However, their plan blew up in their faces as they have been in severe pain since then, launching series of tirades against organized labor. For some others, bitter enders who have remained entrenched in pre-2015 and 2019 election mode, it was opportunity to avenge the 2012 Occupy Nigeria protest, which they believe largely devalued the government of the day and led to its eventual oust in 2015. The strike that was to have come up last week, they wanted to use as opportunity for a pound of flesh, which they calculated would weaken the government so much and influence the 2023 elections. For them, they have since then been calling organized labor all sorts of names, claiming they deceived Nigerians. The time in which we live in, with severe security, economic and social challenges, call for all hands to be on deck and goodwill and support for government as it thrives to put the nation on an even kneel. The presidency therefore commends the organized labor for putting the country first. And to other stories, the Zamfara State Governor Bello Muhammad has facilitated the rescue of 11 kidnapped persons from bandits without payment of any ransom. Now, this is coming at a time the governor summoned a stakeholders meeting to discuss more avenues of achieving peace without bloodshed in the state. The victims, comprising 8 men, 2 women and a baby, are from various states which include Bauchi, Niger, Sokoto and the Zamfara. The victims, most of whom had been in captivity for more than 4 weeks, expressed delight and boundless gratitude to God for regaining their freedom. The governor said his administration will not rest on its oars until lasting peace is achieved in all parts of the state. Now, the most effective and veritable tool for communication and mobilization of any group of people in Nigeria to promote, engender and enhance peaceful coexistence is the radio. Now, this was the emphasis at a conference which dwelt on the theme Microphone Against Hate and Violence. Justin Bemui reports.
Every community in Nigeria and beyond the Sahel zone is said to have a craving for integration into the economic activities and development of the nation. This consciousness for inclusivity is what the average Fulbe man, otherwise called the Fulani people, tend to explore by always staying glued to the radio. More interestingly, Nigeria now has a Fulfulde-speaking radio station for the Fulanis, the Kode Radio International, to promote developmental journalism as well as grassroots sensitization. Consequently, stakeholders at this conference, while launching a program series for conflict resolution and dialogue between farmers and herders, see the radio as a low-hanging fruit that can be used significantly to control crime, militancy, terrorism, and promote economic growth.
We need to sensitize the very large population of Fulbes who are not educated, who no longer have cows, to take care of, and who are not into farming, to bring them into the full picture, into full circle of activities of Nigerian people and Nigerian economy.
Let's use this station to ensure that we mitigate, complex situations, so that societies could be talking to each other. Because the problem we have in Nigerian society, we are not talking to each other in a language that one will understand. Because an average Nigerian, I still believe, is still a wonderful person.
The thematic of the drama series is going to be centered around environmental challenges, mostly overpopulation, climate change, and peaceful coexistence among different ethnic groups.
And we will produce a radio drama, the effect of conflict to migration.
The general thinking of participants of this conference is that the media in any society can be effectively utilized in enhancing inclusivity, as it will further promote education and sensitization of the citizens to give them a voice. In Abuja, Justin Bemuni, NTA News.
And now to some political reports. As the electorate counts down to October 10th governorship election in Ondo State, the police have warned political thugs and supporters of governorship candidates who have intention of causing trouble to steer clear of the state or risk the consequences. The warning is coming against the backdrop of cases of violence caused by some alleged political thugs in some parts of the state during the ongoing electioneering campaigns. Olubukola Aduo reports.
As the October 10 governorship poll in Ondo State to elect the next occupant of Alagbaka Government House beckons, governorship candidates are not leaving any stone unturned in soliciting votes from the electorate through various means, especially open-air campaigns. However, there have been pockets of violence recorded in some parts of the state during these campaigns. The most recent was the bloody clash by some alleged political thugs at Ikpele, our local government area of the state, where innocent people were injured and properties destroyed.
We've arrested some people in respect of that fracas that happened at Ipele, and I think that's already in the court. Intend to do more until we achieve the desired peace for the election that the police and everyone is looking forward for.
Some of the victims of this unfortunate incident are now receiving treatment at the Federal Medical Center, Owo. Political experts who described political violence as hindrance to the electoral process called for prompt intervention to stop the trend and bring perpetrators to justice to serve as deterrent to those using the weapon of violence to advance their political ambition.
What politicians should dissipate their energy on is to woo voters, is to sell themselves, sell their manifestos to voters. Any politician, any party that is engaged in violence is already defeated, within itself.
Nobody should allow his or herself to be influenced or be used as tools in the hand of politicians for violence. We should maintain peace.
Stakeholders also want government, political parties, the police and the electorate to be vigilant, especially in the last few days preceding the election, to keep the current political tension in the state from further escalating. In Akure, Olubukola Aduo, NTA News.
We'll now take you to stories making round on the COVID-19 pandemic as pilgrimage commences in Mecca following Saudi Arabia's easing of COVID-19 restrictions, as thousands in Israel defy lockdown, calling for Prime Minister's resignation. Joyce Ometu has a review of the pandemic on the week gone week.
Cases of COVID-19 in the week just ended in Nigeria have increased by more than 100% compared to the previous week. Analysis of data published by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control shows that between September 27 and October 3, a total of 2,142 new cases were reported, an increase from the 1,053 cases recorded in the preceding week. At present, Nigeria has 59,287 confirmed COVID-19 cases. Of this figure, 50,718 have recovered, with 1,113 fatalities recorded. Statistics by Johns Hopkins Coronavirus Research Center as at 6 p.m. Nigeria time indicates that global cases have reached 34,975,593, while 1,034,403 of the number have died. In a recent development, after conflicting reports over his health, President Donald Trump spoke from the hospital where he is being treated for COVID-19.
I came here, wasn't feeling so well. I feel much better now. We're working hard to get me all the way back. I have to be back. But this was something that happened, and it's happened to millions of people all over the world, and I'm fighting for them. Not just in the U.S., I'm fighting for them all over the world.
Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia has lifted its coronavirus restrictions, which has been in place for months. On Sunday, a limited number of citizens and residents were permitted to enter Makkah's Grand Mosque during the first phase of reopening after it was suspended in March. In Israel, thousands have protested across the country for the 15th week in a row, flouting a new law meant to curb anti-government demonstration during the coronavirus lockdown. The street protests on Saturday and into Sunday kept pressure on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to resign for his poor handling of the coronavirus crisis. And that ends this segment. I am Joyce Ometu.
Many thanks, Joyce, for that package. You're still watching the news on NTA International. We'll take a break now. More stories when we return. Glad to have you back on the news. Now, with less than 24 hours to the commencement of the 2020 National Examination Council NECO examination, NECO Registrar Professor Godswill Obioma says arrangements for a hitch-free examination with minimum standard of COVID-19 protocols for schools is already in place. Professor Obioma stated this in an exclusive interview with correspondent Olainka Ojo. He noted that the non-sensitive and non-essential materials for the examination have been moved to states for onward distribution to schools across the country.
We are going to transfer those experiences to even improve on the forthcoming exams, which is going to begin on the 5th of October. Engaging the security agencies to enable us to covert and overt operations to secure the schools, to ensure that malpractices are reduced completely. And we are also going to send our signals to schools to ensure that the minimum protocols of COVID are obeyed in the large halls where students are supposed to be, to maintain a minimum distance of 3 meters, as we did for BESE.
Now, the National Assembly Service Commission has confirmed the appointment of Ojo Amos Olatunde as clerk to the National Assembly. In a statement by the Executive Chairman of the Commission, Ahmed Kadim Amshi, Dauda Ibrahim El Ladan has also been confirmed as the clerk to the Senate, as well as other top management staff of the National Assembly Service appointed on the 30th September 2020. The Commission also appointed Francis Chinedu Akabweze as the substantive clerk of the House of Representatives. The appointments take effect from 25th November 2020. Now, as the driver of the economy, the oil and gas sector in Nigeria no doubt had equally driven national and economic discourse in almost the entire 6 decades of Nigeria's history. However, from whatever perspective one decides to view the contributions of this sector, a consensus hinges on the question if this great asset has been a blessing or a curse, considering the benefits Nigerians have derived from these endowments. Lydia Sampson tells us the story of Nigeria and its oil and gas reserves.
The history of Nigeria cannot be told without reference to the discovery of oil. Now, we all know that oil was discovered in 1956 at Olobiri in Niger Delta after half a century of exploration. So the question is, how has the Nigerian oil and gas sector fared in 60 years of Nigeria's existence as an independent nation? The history of oil exploration in Nigeria dates back to 1903, when several exploration attempts failed to find oil in commercial value. But after nearly 50 years of searching for oil in the country, Shell BP discovered oil at Olobiri in Bayelsa State. The first oil field began production in 1958. Since then, some experts said the economy of Nigeria should have experienced a strong boost, with citizens harnessing socio-economic benefits. Others, on the other hand, believe the sector, as the major foreign exchange earner, has done well, but stress that with the needed proper regulation, the sector could have been more viable.
Most countries who found oil and gas now developed what we call, national oil companies, who are the ones that remained with the multi-oil national companies, and the kind of arrangements we got. Most other countries now had an exit program to say, okay, you could maintain this your national or multinational approach, but after some certain time, you are going to be exiting.
Government is not resting on its oars to reposition the sector with various ongoing reforms and policies. Already, government, having realized the enormous gas resources, declared Nigeria more of a gas nation, with ongoing efforts to deepen gas utilization.
What we are trying to do is to get our people to use CNG and LPG more than they are using it now. We are one of the lowest, we have one of the lowest penetration even in Africa.
It's the realization that we shouldn't be doing this in the short term, because Mr. President is very clear about his concern for the ordinary people. There's a desire to make sure that value is delivered to this country and to the ordinary people in particular. There's a desire to deliver on infrastructure, medical services, education, and so many things that we're all aware of. He's very passionate about it. But you can't do this if you don't have the right resources.
A major government policy is the introduction of local content, enabling indigenous companies critical participation.
This project has been on the drawing board since 2008-2009. He made it happen. What he shows clearly is the dedication he has to development of local content and local capacity.
Deregulation of the downstream has been a controversial but necessary policy long on the drawing board. Due to dwindling resources, government took the bold step to allow market forces determine petrol pump price.
You will see that pretty soon people will begin to enjoy cheaper energy, oil and gas. The gas sector is about to blossom and it will change the narrative.
Various stakeholders have made it clear that from the physical point of view, subsidizing petrol is no longer sustainable for government. While calling for patience and understanding, key players are optimistic that with the deregulation, Nigeria's oil and gas sector will start another phase of viability that will not just attract investors, but create massive employment across the value chains. In Abuja, Lydia Sampson, NTA News.
Thanks, Lydia. As we now turn our attention to sports, Tottenham whitewashed Manchester United 6-1 as Leicester equally lost at home 0-3 to West Ham. Also on the EPL on Sunday, West Brom lost at Southampton 2-0. Wolves beat Fulham by a lone goal as Arsenal beat Sheffield 2-1. For others reports, it's over to Amansi Marcus on the sports update.